Sir, here comes the microphone.
Given the increasing unpopularity of the EU, what is the Tory party going to do to try and roll back some of the ever-encroaching rules and regulations and bring more governance back to Westminster?
Very good question. Well, first of all, sir, what we think is there are some powers that have already gone to Brussels that should come back again. Powers over the social chapter and employment, telling us how long we can work and all the rest of it. We think we should make those rules here in the UK rather than in Brussels. And powers over things like immigration and law and order, powers over the so-called Charter of Fundamental Rights, those powers we should have here in the UK, not in Brussels. But most important of all, I can tell you, is that if you get a Conservative government, in the first Queen's speech, in the first time Parliament meets again, we will pass a bill through Parliament that says any time any government wants to pass powers from Westminster to Brussels, they can't do it unless they hold a referendum. I know that people feel rather cheated that they didn't get a referendum on the so-called European Constitution, and I'm determined we never let that happen again. Because frankly, you send people to Parliament to make decisions, yes, to represent your views, yes, to decide how we are governed in this country. You don't send people there to give away the powers that we all have as British citizens. So that shouldn't ever happen again without a referendum. And I think that would make a great difference. Sir.
Hi, you say you talk about wastage in the government spending. What about Trident? That's a £11 billion project. Surely it's about time we scrap that with the non-proliferation treaty coming up with the Americans and the Russians signing their reductions arms as well.
I don't agree with you, sir. I think that we're living in a very dangerous world. Who knows what way China is going to turn? Who knows what will happen to Russia over 10, 20, 30 years? Who knows whether Iran will get a nuclear weapon? Who knows which other countries might get nuclear weapons? And would we really be happy to give up our ultimate insurance policy against nuclear blackmail, to give up our independent nuclear deterrent in such an unsafe and dangerous world? I have to say, if I was your Prime Minister, I'd never make that decision. But I think it's important I look you in the eye and give you that answer straight. So I'm afraid with me, we keep the independent nuclear deterrent. We shouldn't lower our guard in a dangerous and unsafe world. Sir.
I think one of the biggest problems the UK face is the amount of young adults leaving university with huge debts and no job. What are the Tories' plan for them?
Right, well let me give you the good news and the bad news, as it were. The bad news is, you know, we've got this enormous budget deficit. We're borrowing about the same amount of money as Greece this year, and look what's happened to Greece. So you can't, a politician standing here making endless promises about spending more money is completely incredible. So I'm afraid the top-up fees and the tuition fees, they're going to have to stay. We need to have really well-funded universities, you know, properly paid tutors and teachers, well-stocked libraries and laboratories. So those fees have got to stay. But I do think we need to do more to help people into work as they leave university. So one thing we've said is that we'd have a program where if you're out of work, within 6 months you get proper tailored training and help to get you back into work. I think that would help. Also, I think at this time we should actually be trying to have more places at university, because otherwise you're going to see people go straight into unemployment. So we're going to copy what the Australians and the New Zealanders have done, which is to say if people want to pay back their loans early, we can recycle that money into more university places. But above all, we've got to get the economy moving. That's where the jobs will come from. And that's why I say again, the idea of a jobs tax, Labour's idea of putting up the cost of employment, is just about the craziest thing we could do right now when we should be helping businesses to take more people on. Because the truth about our economy is this, you know, the government's got too big and the private sector has got too small. And the recovery is not going to come from the government. The recovery is going to come from businesses and entrepreneurs and small businesses deciding to invest and to grow. So we need to help them rather than hit them with a new tax. Any lady here?
Hiya.
Hi.
Once you have created these jobs, how are you going to get people off benefits and into the jobs? Because a third of our wages go to tax, and that goes to people who, you know, it goes to various different things. But it's very easy for people to be on benefits. It's a lot harder for them to go and get a job that pays enough for them to support themselves. So what will you do to encourage that?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, how many people know someone on benefits who could be working? Yeah? I think this is a real problem in our country, and I think we have to be very frank. And we have to say to people that we're a compassionate country. If you're unable to work, if you're disabled, we will help you. But if you are able to work and you're offered a job and you don't take that job, you cannot go on claiming your benefits. For the last 13 years, the government has really done nothing about this. And so we've got, almost 3 million people on incapacity benefit, some of whom can't work, but a lot of whom could work. And I think we have to be absolutely clear, can work, don't get your benefits. Simple as that. That would keep your taxes down. It would enable us to do things like abolish the couple penalty in the tax credit system. It would enable us to be a more competitive economy. And I think it's right, and I think it's right for the people on benefits too. A life on benefits, when you can work, is no life at all. And I think we need to be very, very clear about that. One more. Sir.
Let's assume that you go to power on the 6th of May. In 5 years' time, what will success look like for you?
Well, the first success has got to be getting the economy moving and getting rid of the threat of this deficit and this debt which is holding back our economy and building up, frankly, massive debts for future generations. I look around the room and everyone here is qualified to vote at this election. Everyone here is over 18. But we also ought to be thinking of, children, babies being born in Britain today with vast debts on their head. 23,000 of debt every child is born in Britain today with. So the first thing we've got to do is sort that problem out. Second thing, I think absolutely vital, is education. I've got 2 young children, one age 4, one age 6. My 6-year-old's at a state school in London. I want there to be really great state schools for us to send our children to. And I think we need proper standards, proper discipline, not so much of the nonsense we've seen introduced in educational theory in recent years, and also enable new people to come into the state sector and set up really great schools. We've seen that with the academy schools, and I want to see many more of them. So nobody feels they have to go private for their education. Everyone feels there's a great state school. And also, whatever background you come from, however depressed the part of Britain you live in, you've got a great opportunity to go all the way and have aspiration to go all the way in our country. That should be the driving force of what we want to do over these next 5 years. Can I thank you all very much for coming? Can I thank you for letting me wander around this great historic brewery? I was brought up as a Berkshire lad, so I've always driven up the M4, always smelt the hops as I'm coming into London, but I've never been allowed into the brewery, and it's great to come and see what you do, the fantastic beer that you produce. Please go on doing it. Thank you very much for coming today, and thank you for listening to me. Thanks a lot.
Well, David Cameron, the